Hi everyone, welcome to our Young Founders series here on the One Third Project YouTube channel. This series features incredible young people from across the UK who have overcome struggles and barriers to create opportunities for themselves and for others around them. Today we've been joined by three amazing co-founders who have founded their own podcast to raise awareness and discuss topics such as relationships, body issues, and many other issues that people may face. Thank you so much for meeting with me today and talking about your journeys into creating this amazing podcast. How have you all been doing?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
So I'm Olivia. I am a journalism student from the University of Sheffield, and I'm co-founder of Just Us 3 podcast and social media editor of Liberty Bell magazine. We founded the podcast to normalise and vocalise taboo topics that us three are really passionate about.
I'll go next. I'm Katie, and I'm also a second year journalism student at the University of Sheffield, and I'm also on the Liberty Bell magazine team as the fashion editor. There's a theme going on, you'll see as we go round, but yeah, I'm an aspiring magazine journalist, and as well, of course, I'm the co-founder of Just Us 3. I do a lot of other writing for sort of online publications, of course, to gain experience. And yeah, just to add to what Liv said about the podcast, it's mainly because our podcast is very conversational and it just feels like it literally is just us three and everyone else is listening in to how we'd usually chat to each other. And that's why we founded it, because when we have our little catch-ups, we thought, well, why not start a podcast, because they're basically the same. So yeah, over to you, Han.
Well, I am also an editor for Liberty Bell magazine. I'm an entertainment editor there, and I'm also a second year journalism student at the University of Sheffield. And yeah, with the podcast, again, like Katie said, it literally just feels like when we have a catch up, and it's so lovely because most of the time I don't even think we really sort of think too much about what we're saying. It just comes naturally. And over in the past few episodes we've had guests on a few, and I think that's lovely, and it's nice that to see the podcast evolving. So yeah.
I remember saying to Katie about starting a podcast, and I wanted to do one myself, but obviously doing a podcast yourself it's daunting. So kind of the three of us then had a conversation together about starting one, and it kind of snowballed from there, really.
If you'd have told me a year ago that I would have been a co-host on a podcast, I would have laughed in your face, because I've always been the type, I've been into written journalism, so to delve into podcasting is completely new for me. So to have these two, who are two of my closest friends, alongside me doing it has just made it so much easier to dive into something new, I found personally.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is, and the main reason why we sort of started it is because I think we all wanted to do something a little bit different to what we were doing at uni. We do quite a lot of written work, so I think to do a podcast was, I think, out of our comfort zone, but we all sort of just went for it. And I don't know about you two, but I don't regret it at all.
No, it's been valuable experience, really, and I don't know, it's nice doing something other than uni. Like Han said, it kind of just breaks the monotony of university, really.
And it doesn't feel like a chore, like we all enjoy doing it so much. And say we have to miss a week, because we try to do bi-weekly episodes, but sometimes with our schedules it doesn't always pan out that way, and every time we have to postpone it we're always so gutted about it, because we love producing it and we love planning it and everything behind it. So yeah, it's been a great venture, and we're really excited to see where it goes in the future.
Do you think podcasting is something that anyone can do? Or do you think there's a bit more work behind it that some people might struggle with?
I'm happy to take that one if you guys want. I was just going to say, I think if you sort of put your mind to it, I think anyone can do it, because there's so many different styles of podcasts that are out there. You know, no two seem to be the same. So I think it's something that anyone can do, and it's definitely something that anyone can sort of shape to make their own and make it really personal. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Something I'd say is just to be mindful of whether you'll be able to juggle it alongside other commitments. I feel like it makes it a lot easier for us three, because obviously we delegate the jobs between us, and so the workload is less. So say if someone were to start one up on their own, it probably would be more challenging, just because they'd have to take on all of that themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we all have different strengths. Like, mine's social media, Katie's really good at planning things, Hannah's great at editing, so we kind of split evenly. But if you were doing it yourself, it would be a lot of effort and a lot of work, really.
What advice would you give to students or young people who may be interested in setting up their own podcast?
I think if you've got the drive to do it, then just go for it and don't worry about what other people would say. I think a big thing for us three was worrying about how we'd be perceived by people at home or people on the course. We were worried about starting something new that other people hadn't really delved into. So yeah, I'd just say just do it for you and don't worry about what anyone else has got to say or what they think, because if it makes you happy and you're gaining something from it, then that's the only reason you should do it.
Yeah, I second that. I was literally going to say the same. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you put that perfectly, Katie, to be fair.
Make the change.
Yeah, no,
That was a really good answer. What do you all want to go on to do in your careers? Obviously, you're all on the same course. So where do you all want to go in the future?
That's the waiting of who's going to answer first.
Yeah.
I'm not used to this.
Oh no. I mean, I'm happy to start. I don't mind. I mean, yeah, we all have different interests, and I think it's really nice that we do, because it sort of brings something different to the table. Personally, I really want to be a music journalist or work in music PR, or just basically anything to do with sort of music and journalism. I've always been a fan of music, and I think to actually tie that in with something in the future that I want to do as a career, I think that would just be my absolute dream personally. Yeah. I think that's me.
Oh, I'll speak. I started laughing then. I was like, oh wait, it's me. So yeah, I'm kind of, well, I'm doing journalism and not really looking to go into journalism, which is ironic, but yeah, I'm looking to go into PR, content creation, social media, just everything social media related, really. I'm kind of obsessed with it, but yeah, that's me. Not as exciting as Han, really, doing music, but yeah, just social media.
I think it's very exciting. Sorry.
Exactly.
I want to go into the magazine industry. I'd love to do fashion specifically, but I'm really not fussy. Just as long as it's something fashion or lifestyle related, I'll be happy. I'm more specifically interested in fashion sustainability, so potentially that could be a niche that I fall into in the future. But again, just as long as I'm writing and happy with what I do, I'm happy to do whatever.
If you could tell your younger self one thing about what you've learned throughout your entire journey, whether that's personal journey or academic journey, what would it be?
That's a heavy question. My personal academic journey, for me, because I've mentioned on the podcast, I'm dyslexic, and I think if I could tell my younger self one thing is how far I've come, especially doing a course that's so written and just involves a lot of writing. I've come so far with that, and where I am now, it's amazing. So that's a big personal goal for me, that I've got to uni and I'm where I'm at, really.
I think for me, it'd be not to worry about anybody else, because we're all on this personal journey, and if you take us three, for example, we're all on such different paths that are taking us in such different directions. So just not to be concerned about other people's achievements, because we all know what the journalism industry can be like. We all know about other people's achievements and what they're getting up to all the time, so it can feel a bit deflating if, say, somebody else has got a great opportunity that we possibly haven't had yet. So I'd just say just to forget about anybody else and just focus on yourself, really.
Yeah, I think they're both really interesting points, but I think mine kind of is a bit similar to Olivia's, not in terms of the dyslexia, but I think in college I didn't get the best grades in first year. So I had to basically stay back a year and redo some of the like modules and courses that I was doing. So I think, I thought I wouldn't get to uni, and I was a bit sort of worried at the time about what I would actually end up doing. So again, I think to actually be at Sheffield, honestly, I'm so grateful like every day to actually be there, and I love it. So yeah, I think I'd just say to myself back then, like, don't worry, you've got time to sort of figure things out.
You can't see me because my camera's not on, but I've just been smiling through all those answers. They were really, really nice. Do you have any tips for young people or students struggling during the pandemic, that's academic or personal again?
I feel like it can be very difficult to motivate yourself during the pandemic because obviously we haven't been given any like circumstances or like any leeway with anything. We've been expected to do the same amount of work that we would have done in normal times, so it can be tough to motivate yourself. But I just think just take each day as it comes, because like don't look too far into the future and stress yourself out about things that you can possibly wait to think about. Like just focus on like what you've got to do in the day and then move on to the next one, I think would be my main bit of advice.
I think personally I'd say to people, because like the three of us, as we've mentioned previously, it's really hard to get the divide between uni work and personal time, especially with the news days. It can be really hard to sort of actually just sit and switch off and think, because every time, I don't know about you two, but every time I do, I'm thinking I need to try and find another story or something like that. So I think my one piece of advice to like any student would be try and make time to do things that you just enjoy, that aren't related to school, college or uni. I think or just do things that make you happy.
Yeah, I second what Hannah said. Like I struggle with learning how to switch off and things. I'm constantly on the go, sitting in. Like, I think we're all workaholics. I think we can all admit that. But yeah, if in the pandemic, I think it's a matter of just you sat in one place all day, and it's kind of having the time to give yourself breaks and not just be sat staring at a computer screen all day. It's not healthy, and I think it's having personal like own goals and just keeping yourself healthy and just looking after yourself.
Detaching yourself from social media is so important as well, and I think again it's something that us three struggle with, just because journalism is so heavily reliant on being on Twitter quite a lot of the time, and the journo Twitter community, as amazing as it is, sometimes it can feel a bit suffocating and it's hard to detach from it. So I think just know your limits and know when to take a step back if things are getting a bit much.
I'll ask you one more question. So what are your goals and your vision moving forward with the podcast? Is there anything exciting coming up?
Everything's exciting, really. I don't think there's one thing, because we have no idea where the podcast is going to go, really. For all of us, we just enjoy it. It's kind of a hobby, and I can't say there's like one massive overarching thing, really.
Although moving forward, the next couple of episodes are just us three, and it is important that we do keep some episodes just the three of us, because obviously that's why we wanted to start it. But we have got some really exciting guests coming on in the coming months who we're so flattered that they reached out to us and wanted to be a guest on our podcast. So yeah, it's mainly just the guests that we owe credit to that it's going to be so exciting to have them on, and I think the episodes are going to be really insightful.
So massive thank you to all of you for talking with us about your podcast. Where can we find you and where can we listen to the podcast?
So our Instagram is at JustUs3podcast and our Twitter is at JustUs3pod. Make sure you get those the right way around, it's a bit confusing. And then in our bios on both of those accounts, we've got a link tree in which you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. So yeah.
I'm just going to say my Twitter is Olivia Journo, really simple. So yeah, you can't forget that.
I mean, mine's just Hannah Yowds. It's just my first and surname together.
And then mine's _ Katie Wheatley.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Again, a huge thank you to Katie, Hannah and Olivia for coming to talk to me and to kind of share their insight into everything that they're doing, and we wish them all the best in their future and their work.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having us. It's been such a pleasure, and we were so flattered that you reached out to us and wanted us on the project. So yeah, it's been fab.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this video and for supporting the young founders that have been interviewed throughout the series for the One Third Project YouTube channel. To find out more information about the One Third Project and what we do and any projects you may want to get involved in, you can head over to www.onethirdproject.co.uk.